By the end of this lesson, you can use proportion. You'll be able to use proportions to find a missing side of a similar figure. So similar figures are figures that have the same shape and they're not the same size. Okay, so and their sides are proportional. All right, so if two figures are similar, then the corresponding angles are all the same. So corresponding meaning the same place. So for instance, if you look at example 2 down here, angle Q and angle V are congruent because they're corresponding. They're in the same place. All right. And the corresponding sides, though, are proportional. Okay. So we're going to use that fact to write proportions to find missing sides. You can use proportions or scale factor to find the measures of the sides of similar figures when some of the measures are known. So let me show you what I mean by that. When there's more than one way to write these proportions, okay, just so you know, as long as you keep everything lined up, there's more than one way to write the proportions. I'm going to show you the same way every time because I'm a kind of a creature of habit. If you do it the same way every time, then it's easy to remember. So whenever I can compare small to big. Okay, small to big every time. So what I mean by that is I'm going to do 5 to 10. So 5 to 10. All right, that proportion, because they're proportional, is going to be the same as 7 to x. 7 to x. And I put the smaller triangle on the top, the bigger triangle on the bottom, and I keep things lined up. So 5 to 10, those are corresponding. They're both on that left hand side. They're both that, it's not, it looks, oh yeah, it is. It's the shorter side of the triangle. And then 7 to x. Okay, they're both in the same spot in the triangle. The hardest part is keeping them lined up because once you have them lined up correctly, then you can go ahead and just solve the proportion. So I'm going to do 5 times x equals 7 times 10, which is 70. Divide by 5, and I get x equals 14 meters. All right. So again, there are other ways to apportion. You're going to be like, hey, Miss Collier, I could have done 5 over 7 equals 10 over x. Yes, there's more than one way to do it, but we're going to do it the same way every time. You're more than welcome to, as long as yours way is mathematically sound, that's fine. But when I go to present it, I'm going to do it the same way every time. So again, smaller over bigger with the corresponding sides together. So for instance, 22 to x. So 22 to x, smaller on top. Then I'm going to do the smaller on top again. So 17 over 51. All right. 22 and x are both on that same part of the shape. 17 and 51 are on the same part of the shape. Those are called corresponding parts because they're in the same place on both of those. Those are pentagons. They got 5 sides, so both those pentagons. Once I have things lined up, then I'm just going to multiply 17 times x equals 22 times 51. 22 times 51 is 1,122. Then I just divide by 17 on both sides. So x would be 66 meters. Next two examples for this polygon. Well, it is a polygon. It's a very specific polygon. It's a parallelogram. All right, so the parallelogram and this right triangle are going to work the same way. So again, I'm going to do small over big with corresponding. So 3 and 15 equals 7 over x. 7 over x. Again, it's very important that you line it up correctly or you're going to get the wrong answer. 90% of the time when you're getting these questions wrong, it's not the solving proportions because you guys are pretty good at that. It's not having things lined up. Corresponding parts together, smaller over bigger. All right, so 3 times x equals 7 times 15. 7 times 15 is 105. Divide by 3 on both sides, and you get x equals 35, and we're talking about inches on this one. Okay, corresponding together, smaller on top, bigger on bottom. All right. Number 4 works the same way. Corresponding together. So G over 18, smaller over bigger, 8 over 12. 8 over 12. So we get 12 times G equals 18 times 8, which is 144. Oh, I know what 144 divided by 12 is. For some reason, that's a multiplication factor I always have. So 144 divided by 12 is, you guys know this, 12. Because 12 squared is 144. Sometimes you need to draw the picture out that they gave you. So they might give you a statement, and then you're going to draw out that picture. So rectangle CDEF, so CDEF, and then another triangle rectangle. And we write in order CDEF, and then KLMN, KLMN. What is the value of EF if CD is 3? We know that. And KL is 16.5. And MN is 38.5. Okay. I remember now in this problem. They have a misprint here because if this is a rectangle, MN couldn't be 38.5. It would have to be 16.5. Those two would have to be the same. So that's a little bit of a misprint. So I'm going to have you guys change this from MN. We're going to change this to KN. And the same thing here, instead of EF, we're going to change this to, because that would have to be 3. And no matter where you put the E and F, it would have to be 3. So there's no way for that not to be 3, so no matter how you draw it. I think I put CF, yes. So if you'll change that. So what is the value of CF if KN is 38.5? All right, so we're going to do smaller over bigger still. So I'm going to do 3 over 16.5 because those correspond to another. And then we're going to do X smaller over 38.5. All right. So again, we had to change the problem because someone didn't do their checking good there. All right. So 3 over 16.5, those are corresponding, and then X over 38.5, those are corresponding. So I get 16.5 equals 3 times 38.5. 115.5 divided by, whoops, this should be 16.5x. 16.5 times x. Or I'd have a weird statement there. Divide by 16.5, and I get x is 7 meters. Okay, so if they give you a statement, draw the picture, and then what you're going to do is label that picture the way they say. So CD is the line between C and D. KL was between K and L. Again, for this problem, it's a little wonky because they didn't really edit this problem correctly. All right, then make sure you're still lining things up. Small over big with the corresponding sides, small over big with corresponding sides. So now what you're going to do is on the next page, we do 1 through 11.